would rather be challenging in the superior courts going forward. Anas Malik in Islamabad, Pakistan for WION World is One.
In a major breakthrough, Israel's security cabinet has approved the Gaza ceasefire deal. As per the agreement, the first phase comes into effect on Sunday, which is January the 19th, and it will last for 6 weeks. There are 2 more phases in the works that focus on a permanent ceasefire. All eyes are on the ravaged enclave as it looks forward to peace after over 15 months of devastation. But a major question arises: who will now overlook Gaza's administration? Given how things currently stand, Hamas runs the de facto government in Gaza, while in the occupied West Bank, the Palestinian Authority, primarily controlled by the Fatah, run the administration. Murmurs suggest that the Palestinian Liberation Organization will take governance in the Gaza Strip. Internationally recognized as a representative of the Palestinian people, there are several groups under the umbrella organization. But Fatah is the most important one, the prominent one rather. Among the groups outside of this coalition, Hamas is the most prominent one, along with the Islamic Jihad. Now, since 2006, the Hamas has governed the Gaza Strip after it won the elections that were conducted post the withdrawal of Israeli forces. More recently, Ismail Haniyeh and Yahya Sinwar were part of Hamas's top leadership, but both were killed by Israeli forces. Many more officials were killed by Israeli strikes, leaving the void in the group. Now, for years, the Palestinian Authority's power was limited to occupied West Bank under Mahmoud Abbas. In the past 15 months, negotiations around the ceasefire deal raised the question of Gaza's future. Israel and Western allies, particularly the US, want Hamas out of power. But now, with light at the end of the tunnel for 2 million Gazans, its political governance still remains an unanswered question. For more, joining us live on the broadcast from Ramallah in West Bank is Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, who is a Secretary General and co-founder of the Palestinian National Initiative. Dr. Barghouti, thank you so much for taking the time out and joining us on the show today. Before I ask you what is to become of Gaza, I want to ask you, do you see a successful completion of the deal? It is a phased out release. There are 3 phases. Do you perhaps at all see the deal collapsing, or do you see it successfully getting done with?
Well, I, like all the Palestinian people, definitely want this agreement to succeed, because it will at least provide relief to the people in Gaza who suffered drastically from 3 Israeli war crimes: the genocide, the collective punishment, and the ethnic cleansing. We want it to succeed. And of course, now the whole world sees the reality that the obstruction to the deal before was by Israel, not the Palestinian side. And that's what today Biden admitted, in contradiction to what he used to say before. He said that Netanyahu lacked the courage to stand up to his extreme ministers in his cabinet and to enforce ceasefire. Anyhow, now we have a different situation. I think Trump also participated in pressuring Netanyahu, and we will have the first stage for sure. Our efforts will go on and continue to exercise the utmost possible pressure so that we can move into the second and third phase, and then we will have a complete end of the war and not just a ceasefire.
Dr. Barghouti, who do you see running the future administration in Gaza? Will Hamas try to control some of it? Will we see external stakeholders also having a say there? What do you think the future of Gaza looks like to you?
As the Prime Minister of Qatar, which is the main mediator with Egypt in achieving this deal, said today, the Gaza should be governed by Palestinians. We don't need an external force to come and rule us. We have enough of Israeli occupation. We don't need other occupations. So Palestinians have to have the right to rule themselves. I want to remind you that we in Palestine, both West Bank, Gaza, and Jerusalem, never had an election since 20 years. Our last presidential elections took place 20 years ago. Our last legislative council elections took place 19 years ago. And we don't have even a legislative council. So what we need is to bring back the democratic system to life. And that means allowing Palestinians to freely and democratically choose their leaders. And the world must accept the people's choice, like they do in other countries, like they do in India or in Britain or United States. What we need is free democratic process. But until we reach that point of the possibility of having elections, maybe within a year or more, we need a national consensus government. That's something we agreed about in a very important meeting that took place in Beijing, where the 14 political parties, including all the parties that are members of the PLO and Hamas and the Jihad and others, signed an agreement about creating an interim national consensus government that would rule both West Bank and Gaza and prevent separation of Gaza from the West Bank. And that would prepare for the free democratic elections that I spoke about.
Dr. Barghouti, I want you to give us a quick word on the Hamas and the Palestinian authorities as well in terms of the governance. And also, while one is trying to achieve and see the end of the tunnel and the light at the end of it, the ceasefire talks are still, we're still trying to achieve it, the completion of it. Do you see external stakeholders who possibly have a say in deciding the future of Gaza? Considering the deal was announced by Egypt, Qatar and the United States, who those external stakeholders could be, in your opinion?
These external stakeholders should help us rebuild Gaza and reconstruct what Israelis have destroyed. They should also help us prevent Israel from going back to war again, as Netanyahu is promising. That's the recipe for the future. And they should help create a true process that would lead to the end of Israeli occupation. People have to understand that the Palestinian story did not start on the 7th of October. And this war we are having today is maybe the 10th war in the history of Palestinian-Israeli confrontation. The main cause of everything, the main cause of the disease is the Israeli military occupation of Palestinian land. The main cause of what we have seen all these years, since 76 years when Israel was established, was the fact that Israel has conducted ethnic cleansing against 70% of the Palestinian people, erased to the ground no less than 520 Palestinian communities, and conducted the longest military occupation in modern history, and then transformed that occupation into a worse system of apartheid, even much worse than what prevailed in South Africa at one point of time. So this oppression has to end. We cannot have peace unless we are accepted as people, as Palestinians, on equal footing with Israelis and with other people, unless we are allowed to be free from occupation, from oppression, and allowed to build our country and have peace, a just peace and prosperity, like every people want in this world.
When do you see elections happening in Gaza?
I think we will have elections not only in Gaza, but we should have them in the whole areas that should become the Palestinian state. And that, how long would it take to prepare for these elections? First, we have to stop this war. Then we have to have a strong input to reconstruct the basic needs in Gaza, like infrastructure, health facilities, educational facilities, water pipes, pipelines, electricity networks. These are essentials. I do not think we can start the process of elections before a year from now, but not later, because sooner or later we have to give the people the right of what they deserve, which is to choose their leaders. And this would solve the problem of internal division that we continue to have. Meanwhile, we will never stop working for a unified Palestinian national leadership, because we are facing other risks, not just the war on Gaza. We face the risk of Israeli intention of annexing the West Bank and destroying completely any last chance of a Palestinian independent state. We face the threat of ethnic cleansing by Israeli settlers in the West Bank. We need unity. Without unity, we cannot succeed in facing all these challenges.
Dr. Mustafa Barghouti, thank you so much for your time and joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump will take oath as the 47th President of the United States in 3 days from now. The US voters have differing expectations for the next president. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns tells us what they are. Take a look.
In the southern state of Mississippi, expectations for Donald Trump's second presidency are mixed. Bobby Joe Harrell voted for Trump.
I would like to see him definitely take control of the border and our illegal immigrant situations. I'm all about helping anyone that I can, especially where young children are concerned. But I'd also like to see my children and my grandchildren be able to enjoy the America that I grew up in.
Transgender New Yorker Angelo Meyer is concerned about the future under an administration that has expressed opposition to gender-affirming health care.
Republicans watching need to know investing in trans kids is just as important as investing in their own kids. Because we are the next generation who's going to lead this country. And we have bright ideas, strong futures.
Sean Cushing wants Trump to focus on the economy.
Just stick to the campaign promises and end the taxes on tips the way he said he would.
Jerry Helton in Mississippi agrees the economy is the top priority.
I would like for President Trump to be able to lower the cost of living for us again. I'm tired of living from paycheck to paycheck.
In Pennsylvania, Samira Sherfawi worries about Trump's impact on her reproductive and religious rights.
I'm thinking I'm losing my right, women's rights. I'm thinking I'm losing my right religion because I see that he wants to put forward just Christianity, and I believe that this country opens up to every religion. I feel as though that everyone should be able to learn about the religion in schools, not just one.
In Texas, Trump supporter Ross Barrera says the incoming president's business experience will help put the country right.
People are tired. What people want here, they want jobs, they want a good economy, they want the inflation to go down, they want border security. They want oil and fuel.
The most important thing Trump can do for Mississippi voter Yael Frausto is to lay out a clear agenda.
I would want him to be straightforward about the policies that he is going to put forward into the country, just so we know, everyone in both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, what we have to look forward to or not look forward to in the next 4 years.
Trump will be sworn in as president in Washington January 20th. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
South Korea remains in political turmoil as prosecutors seek a new arrest warrant for the impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon, detained after a failed bid to impose martial law, continues to refuse questioning by investigators. Yoon's attempt to declare martial law on the 3rd of December lasted just about 6 hours before the parliament blocked the move. And in the weeks that followed, Yoon was impeached and eventually arrested in a dawn raid on Wednesday. Investigators are now wanting to extend his detention by 20 days to formalize an indictment. If convicted of insurrection, Yoon can face life imprisonment or even execution. Meanwhile, his ruling People Power Party has seen an approval rating boost, overtaking the opposition Democratic Party for the first time since August. According to a new Gallup Korea poll, the PPP now stands at 39%, with many crediting its targeted messaging to supporters. Yoon supporters also continue to rally outside Seoul Detention Center. Hundreds of them gathered and chanted slogans in his support.
Our country is truly in a precarious situation. Our president has informed us about this, how dangerous the situation is. That's why people are waking up now and joining the right wing and supporting President Yoon Suk-yeol. I believe that's why approval ratings has increased.
The hearing in the case is underway in the Constitutional Court that will decide within 180 days whether to remove Yoon from office or restore his presidential powers. The judges will decide if Yoon's martial law declaration was unconstitutional and illegal. The Delhi poll battle is heating up and all major parties have announced their election promises, including a range of schemes and freebies to win over voters. The Bharatiya Janata Party in its manifesto has promised a monthly assistance of 2,500 rupees to women and 21,000 rupees to expectant mothers. Underprivileged women will get LPG cylinders at 500 rupees with an extra free cylinder on Holi and Diwali. The party plans to set up the Atal Canteen in Jhuggi Jhopri clusters, offering nutritious meals at just 5 rupees. For senior citizens, a pension of 2,500 rupees will be given for those aged between 60 and 70, and 3,000 rupees for those above the age of 70. Meanwhile, the ruling Aam Aadmi Party is aiming to expand its existing free transport scheme. If re-elected, it will offer free bus rides to students across Delhi. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has also promised to provide a 50% discount on metro fares for students, requesting the central government to share the cost. Now, the party hopes that these measures will further its appeal to young voters. The Congress has promised a 2,500 rupees monthly handout for women and introduced the Mehngai Mukt Yojana, which offers 300 units of free electricity, LPG cylinders and 500 rupees and free ration kits. The party has also announced the Jeevan Raksha Yojana, promising free health cover of up to 2.5 million rupees for the youth. It pledges to support educated, unemployed individuals with 8,500 rupees monthly. With women and youth as the key voter base, all parties are leaving no stone unturned. The election countdown has begun, with Delhi heading to polls on the 5th of February and the results to be declared on the 8th of February. Now here's a quick roundup of news coming from other parts of the world. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame criticized the recent peace talks with Dr. Congo, calling them a photo opportunity for leaders. Kagame demanded new efforts to resolve the deadly conflict. Peace talks hosted by Angola were cancelled in December after a deadlock over Rwanda's demand for direct talks between the Congolese negotiators and rebels in Congolese territory.
I know leaders when I see them. I also know idiots when I see them. You can imagine the combination of both of them, the disaster it is. If you are a leader and an idiot, it's a disaster, absolute disaster. It is even worse, even more dangerous.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has condemned Elon Musk's support for the far-right alternative for Germany, calling it completely unacceptable. Musk urged Germans to vote for the AfD in the upcoming elections during a broadcast with party leader Alice Weidel. Okay, with that, we wind up today's edition of Race to Power. Stay tuned to WION World is One.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
The biggest gathering of humanity on the planet.
This is quite an interesting spot.
WION brings you exclusive coverage from the ground of the Mahakumbh Mela.
These bikes will be patrolling all around.
From security to infrastructure. From tent city to Sangam. We've got you covered.
This is Tribeni Sangam, where Ganga, Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati rivers meet.
Experience faith. Experience culture.
Tent as well.
Experience Mahakumbh. Only on WION. World is One.
This week on Check It Out, we explore the rise of robots and see how robots are revolutionizing industries and changing the way we live and work. We also delve into how cutting-edge technologies are revolutionizing healthcare. And we take you on a unique journey to Tokyo's Extinct Media Museum, a fascinating space dedicated to preserving the history of technology. This and more on WION World is One at these times.
Amid escalating violence in the eastern regions of the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Congolese army announces significant military gains against the M23 rebel group, with Rwanda's Paul Kagame calling for dialogue. Benin celebrates Vodun Days, a festival centered around the arts, culture and spirituality of the voodoo cult, where women are the mainstay of the festivities. And Senegal aims to promote their culture using toys like traditional wrestler figurines or dolls that come in a wide range of skin tones, including albino. That's this week on World of Africa, at these times on WION. World is One.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Hi, welcome back. You're watching WION World is One and this is WION Fine Print. I'm Isha Hanspal. The top stories in the headlines. Israel Security Cabinet approves the Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal that should take effect this weekend, with the first hostages to be released on Sunday. Russian President Vladimir Putin hopes a ceasefire in Gaza would lead a long-term stabilization and calls for efforts to secure a comprehensive settlement of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Chinese President Xi Jinping holds phone talks with the US President-elect Donald Trump, Chinese state media reports. US officials scrambled to delay a ban of TikTok in the US ahead of a Sunday deadline, as the reality of denying the app to 170 million users gives Washington second thoughts. International Monetary Fund chief economist Pierre Olivier says that Donald Trump's economic plans risk reigniting the US inflation ahead of the US president-elect's return to the White House. A Dutch frigate arrived in Tallinn as NATO increases its presence in the Baltic Sea to help protect critical undersea infrastructure. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Iranian counterpart Masoud Pezeshkian holds talks in Moscow ahead of the signing of a strategic partnership treaty involving closer defense cooperation that is likely to worry the West. Fierce wildfires across the Los Angeles area has killed at least 27 people and destroyed more than 12,300 structures in more than a week. Israel's Security Cabinet has approved the Gaza deal. And this is as per the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office. Under the deal struck by Qatar, the United States and Egypt, the coming weeks should also see the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. The ceasefire is due to begin on Sunday, after more than a year of war. It is scheduled to take effect on the eve of Donald Trump's inauguration as President of the United States. 33 hostages are set to be released over the next 6 weeks in exchange for hundreds of Palestinians